Deb Tribe with you. It's 20 minutes to 8. Well, this particular story we're about to do now is about death and dismay, but in reality it's also about love and hope. Rebecca Hunt is an English teacher at St John's Grammar in Belair, but she's also a tireless fundraiser for the Sunrise Children's Orphanage in Nepal, which she'll be visiting as a volunteer in November. Rebecca, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. Now, also with you, you've brought a couple of your Year 12 students. We've got Anya Hauer. Hi, Anya.
Hello.
And Andre Cheney. How are you, Andre?
I'm all right, thanks.
Good to have you both here. Now, thanks for joining us, Rebecca, particularly as it's your husband's birthday. Is that him out there?
That is.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Thanks for coming into the studio instead of going out for a meal with the family. Now, you've got your students writing horror stories that you've put together in an anthology called Death and Dismay to raise funds for the orphanage. Now, can you tell us where you got the idea from?
It's interesting because I wanted to raise money for this orphanage I'm going to, but there's only so many sausage sizzles and, muffins that can be sold at school. I wanted to do something original, and I'm always looking for ways to, give public recognition to all the amazing work that students do. And so it's been an idea I've been toying with, and this is one of their narrative assignments they have to do for Year 12 English, and they were fantastic. So just asked their permission to put it all together and promote their work and also raise some money at the same time.
Great. I was going to ask if it was part of the curriculum or if it was something that was additional too. So it's something that students had to put their mind to anyway.
Yes.
And now they're going to find themselves published authors by the end of their school year.
It's great.
That's pretty exciting, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
You must be happy about that. Now, the title like Death and Dismay, I have to say, Rebecca, it sounds like a bit of a hard sell. How are you selling this one?
The title is just to reflect, how dark the stories were. It's really interesting. I find that horror fiction is a genre where people write incredibly well because they can just have fun. It's so out of their realm and out of their normal experience. And horror fiction is a pretty popular genre as well. So I guess it's a love or hate kind of genre, but a lot of people love it.
So what was the brief given to the students? What was actually set for them? It would have been, deeper than write a horror story.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time looking at structural features and linguistic features and exactly what are, the rules of horror fiction writing so that they could do it effectively. And we pulled apart a lot of Edgar Allan Poe and stories like that.
And so you looked at what makes a good horror story because, certainly you can't reveal everything up front, or you can reveal enough to tease, because I've read both of your stories, and I tell you what, we'll talk about the subject matter in a second, but they're pretty brutal. Now, you had 27 contributions to the book. Yeah. Now, it's broken down also into subgenres. Can you tell us a bit about those titles?
I was just looking a way to structure the contents page, and so I reread all the stories when I was proofreading them and realised they fell into the supernatural, so like werewolves and vampires, and into that kind of human element of, serial killers, those kind of classics. But then there was also the kind of the devil, within section where sometimes the horror can be someone and it's those stories that are potentially real that are sometimes more scary than the ghosts and monsters.
Exactly, and we're dealing with subject matters that are quite real with the students that we've got here. I'll come back and talk about the anthology and your work in just a moment, but Anya, let's talk about your story, if we might. It was love. It's quite a bloodthirsty and a very frightening story. And I guess it's hard to talk about a story without delving a little bit into the plot. But what was your inspiration for it? Because it is unfortunately getting into this reality of us being quite scary if we choose to be.
Yeah, and that was one of my inspirations. I wanted it to be something that people could relate to, that was quite real to them, that they could put themselves in that situation, even though it's quite extreme. And I guess I wanted to dive away a bit from that typical ghost vampire stories and focus more on that psychological aspect that might come into what we see in killings.
Well, you did it very well, and I must say the imagery is very evocative, and right from the outset I was feeling very apprehensive about the story. Just to give our listeners a taste, would you like to just read a little bit from your story?
Sure. Dim rays of moonlight shone through the cracks of the blinds into the semi-darkened room. Standing in the middle was a man, illuminated by the moonlight. His arms were dropped beside his hips, his legs slightly apart, and a trickle of sweat dripped down his forehead. In his hand he clasped a butcher's knife covered with dark red blood that dripped onto the ground and disappeared into the holes of the floorboard.
Oh dear. And look, I won't give away the plot, but let's just say it's a very dark side of humankind that you delve into. Were you damaged by writing that story?
Well, it was quite scary. I had to actually change a few parts throughout writing the story to make it not as scary and perhaps not reveal too much detail and leave more to the reader's imagination.
Yes, well, it certainly gave me the heebie-jeebies, that's for sure, Anya. And interestingly, you've both done this, both you and Andre. You've written as a man, from a man's perspective.
Yes.
And Andre, your story, called The Darkest Room, is written from a female perspective.
Yeah.
Olivia, I think, is your protagonist.
Yeah.
What about your story? Did you get a particular idea from anywhere?
Well, I'm a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, actually. So I was reading The Raven one night, and it just inspired me to write something about grief and how it can affect some people and what it can lead to, that sort of thing. And I also draw it a bit from my own experience. Some people in my past who've dealt with similar things like this that happened to them.
Really?
So,
yeah, well, I mean, it's. I think we really need to name what we're talking about here because, I mean, it deals with the issue of suicide, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is a very real issue, and it's a very real issue that's grappled with by young people in this country. So it's a very serious topic. Did you feel a sense of responsibility because you were writing about such a serious topic?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure.
Well, you did it very sensitively as a reader, I
yeah.
must say. Would you like to read us a little snippet of your story also, just so that we can get a taste of the prose? Thank you.
I surrendered myself to the dark. My head ached as I looked around the desolate wasteland. All I could see was the shapes of the dying trees, the stormy skies, and the scorched earth. No air was reaching my lungs. I was stuck. I felt my body being drained of life. I wandered through the waste, my eyes unable to adjust properly. There was something I was searching for, something I needed to find.
Wow, beautiful voice too. Very, very scary, chillingly read. Well, I must commend you both on the stories. They're really, really excellent. And it's interesting, isn't it? As human beings, the things that we fear the most are the things that you've sort of written about. Yet for some reason we like being scared by our deepest fears. I wonder what that is about human nature.
Sometimes this feeling that there is evil can sometimes affirm for us the existence of good, particularly if you take it from a religious angle as well. If there is a devil, there must be God. And it speaks to some of those deepest notions of our life.
Yes, well, I hope there is a lot of lightness because there's a bit of darkness in this, but as you said, a very, very popular genre. So if you're into your horror or your supernatural type of books, can anybody get a copy of Death and Dismay?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two ways. If you live near Blackwood, Belair area, there's copies in Mindfield Books. Mindfield Books is on 10 Coromandel Parade, so you can grab a copy there for $15. And other than that, you can go to this web address and all the details you need to get them there. It's RebeccaJaneHunt.wordpress.com. So there's no fancy spelling in my name, it's plain.
Okay.
RebeccaJaneHunt.wordpress.com. And copies from there are $17, which includes the postage out.
Fantastic. And that money is going to be raised for the Sunrise Children's Orphanage.
Children's Association Orphanage, which is in Nepal, and they focus on reintegrating children with their families wherever possible, and when they can't, providing home care and education for those children.
And you're heading over there in November?
Yes. Yeah.
What will you be doing there then?
Volunteering for a month, basically assisting teachers with their education and helping out wherever I can.
Wow, well that should be an amazing experience, probably challenging, I imagine, a lot of the time, but very, very rewarding. Well, congratulations, Rebecca, on coming up with such a great fundraiser. Like you said, it's certainly not a cupcake stand, and it's challenged the students to use their mind. And I haven't read all of the stories in the book, but if they're of the calibre of Anya and Andre's stories, I'm sure it will be a good seller. So do get hold of that. I'll just get you to give your web address again for people to make contact.
Yep, as all one word, it's RebeccaJaneHunt.wordpress.com.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. Good luck in November when you go over there. And, the children need a lot of love. So it's great that people like yourself are raising money and going over there to help out. And good luck with you two with Year 12 studies. How are you tracking so far?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, we're getting towards the end, so
Yeah.
we're excited about finishing.
Yeah, so you've got the glow of the end in sight, but the stress of the exams to get through. But you've both been studying.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That there's no, as long as you're up to date, that's really all you can do, I think, in your studies. You've either done the work or you haven't really, haven't you, when you get to Year 12? Well, good luck to both of you anyway, and I'm sure you've got great careers ahead, and you've got a good career ahead in radio if you want, Andre, I think, with that voice. But great to meet you all. Thanks very much for coming into the studio.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's Rebecca Hunt, English teacher at St John's Grammar in Belair, Anya Hoa and Andre Cheney, as Year 12 students, now published writers.